What if your career could be summed up like a sports team's record? Wins, losses, and depending on the sport, ties. And what if the losses taught you more than the wins? That's how today's guest, Phillip Cantrell, describes his 4 decades in business. He's the founder of Benchmark Realty. He's now the EVP of Strategy at United Real Estate, and he's the author of Failing My Way to Success: Lessons from 42 Years of Winning and Losing in Business. So, Phillip, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me, Mark. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, it's
And
great to have you here. I hope everything I read was accurate.
sounds good to me. Let's go with it.
Okay. And we're laughing a little bit because
Yeah.
in my first attempt, I called Phillip Jim because there was a name way back in my memory banks somewhere. I'm going to write this down on a big old card. I'm going to in front of me. Phillip Cantrell is here today. So he's a good sport. And maybe that's one of the keys to bouncing back in a resilient way and growing and success. From the title of Phillip's book, he's in the right place here, my favorite mistake. But Phillip, looking back at the different losses, or maybe it's the ties or things in your career, what's your favorite mistake?
The subtitle of the book of Winning and Losing is key here because there's been lots of losses, as you said in the intro there. In sporting record terms, I have founded or controlled 10 separate businesses in my career. And in that time, I have what I would call 4 wins, 4 losses. Now, and I'm talking about distinct losses, and then 2 ties, which in business really are a loss, right?
Uh-huh. So the losses were like blowout losses?
Yeah, like blowout with zeros behind them, man.
Uh-huh.
Failure is going to happen. Failure is going to happen. If you're in business, you're going to get your knuckles busted or you're not doing anything. That's a favorite term from my father taught me is that, son, if you don't make mistakes, then you're not doing anything. So just know that they're going to come. And when it does strike, the key is what you learn from it and how you recover from it.
Yeah.
How you react to it. Stephen Covey talked about that in Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space, we have the ability to choose our response. And that really, I just gave you the definition of business itself. It is the response to stimuli and how well you do that determines your success in the long term. That's a bit of a preaching moment there, but that's important for people to know.
Yeah.
Have a lot of them. I think probably the most impactful one for me was putting all of my eggs in one basket. When I started Benchmark Realty in 2006, I started the company to serve high-end custom home builders in our area here in Middle Tennessee. And that was great, but I put too many eggs in one basket. I had 5 builders and then I cut off the rest of them. And I thought that's going to be enough for me. I'm going to die fat and happy and it's all good. Until 2007, the fall of 2007, when the economy and the mortgage crisis began to set in and things began to slow down it hit the high end market first, and it hit so hard, so fast. It was like somebody flipped the light switch off and forgot to tell us the store was closed. And literally the phone just stopped ringing. Simultaneous with that, my largest builder came to me and said, my houses are not selling, and I believe it's Benchmark's fault, so I'm going to go start my own real estate firm, my own real estate brokerage. And I said, that's tough. I had 13 agents at the time, but that's a business decision, I thought. What I didn't know is at the time that he had already enticed 7 of my 13 agents to go with him before he ever came and talked to me.
Oh, no.
So kick to the curb and then stomp in the guts is what phraseology. So the big mistake from the big takeaway was putting too much in that one basket. In the end, though, the magnificent outcome was that up until that point, we were a fairly traditional brokerage. Everybody was on an 80-20 split. I was the rainmaker. So we were down to 5 agents, and I had a conversation with the man in the mirror, and I said, dude, you got to do something serious, and you got to do it right damn now. And so what I did was I took October, November, that's really November, December, and January, and rewrote our business plan, reformatted the model, and relaunched February 1 of 2008, literally staring at the abyss. And we reformatted from a percentage-based commission model to a fee-based commission model. In other words, we charged our agents a fee per transaction instead of a percentage of their commission dollars. So that was fairly revolutionary at the time. There were several national companies that do it now. I like to say they copied us, but I know that's not true. They're all smart people. They came up with it on their own. So it was a huge turning point for our business. And we went from 5 agents. And when I sold the company in 2020, we were at about 1,400 agents, and I still maintain a consulting role here as the founder. In fact, I'm broadcasting from my office here at Benchmark.
Yeah.
We're now right at 2,000 agents in Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, and Alabama. So the fact that had we not had that mistake, had I not made that mistake, had we not had that catastrophe, we would not be anything near what we are today. That's for sure.
Okay. Wow.
It's a lot, I know.
Yeah. There's some things we can unpack there.
Yeah.
It's great to hear that you focused on the pivot, the reformatting, the reinvention, the relaunch, instead of, I guess, wallowing in feeling sorry for yourself or cursing.
Or folding a tent and going and
or-
hanging my shingle on somebody else's wall, you know.
Not just cursing the person who left and stole other agents, or like they're free to leave, but it feels, I'm sure felt like they pulled the rug out from under you at least.
They're all independent contractors. So that's the thing about this industry, is that our business value has 2 legs and can walk out the door.
So do you think if things had just been marching along without that moment that gave you pause, would you have just continued down a path that was not as good as
Absolutely.
you have?
That's
something you couldn't have anticipated at the time.
No. I have, when I got in real estate in 2002, I moved from a 19-year career in commercial printing to real estate. And I characterized that as I had 4 kids, a wife, and a vicious ex-wife, and none of them work with me. So failure was not an option. And suddenly I found myself right back in that spot after working myself into a sweet spot, I thought. Had that change not occurred, had that jolt not occurred, I considered a God thing that I was getting pretty cocky. I was getting pretty proud of what we were doing and pretty happy with the way things was. And I thought I was going to ride off into the sunset, have a nice little business, and then the rug got yanked out from underneath me by an impact item that I had no clue was even in the offing. You can't predict economic events. You can't even guess what they're going to be in the long term. I probably could have been more astute at paying attention to economic trends. It is what it is. But I was planning on just growing this to perhaps be a more regional servicer of high-end new homes, but never got the opportunity because it all collapsed because of the crisis.
I want to ask more about doing that different fee model and what you expected to happen or what you hoped would happen or the risks involved. I don't know this industry. So maybe could you give us a bit of a breakdown? Let's say if there's make the numbers easy, maybe $1 million home, what that impact was on the agents or your business under those 2 different models.
It's pretty straightforward. And I actually discuss this in detail in the book if you really want to go deep on that. Not fairly deep detail, but to give you an analogy. So if you have a commission rate of, and I'm picking a number out of the air, of 2% on $1 million home, that's what, $20,000, right?
Yep.
In our model now, that the agent would pay us $650. So tremendous swing. And then the broker payout in our world is the individual agent's largest expense. Sure. Don't view it as an expense, but it's an expense. They're paying their broker to hold their license. An individual, unless you have your own broker's license and have a firm also, you can't get a real estate license and just go sell real estate. You have to be affiliated with a firm. And honestly, I feel that's a taxation issue. It's easier to tax one than it is to tax many. That's the way the rules are written. So we have to play the game. But in that was fairly revolutionary at the time. And during the down market, so what does it do? Your revenue per agent nosedives. So that means you have to have more agents. I characterize myself at Benchmark as a recruiting company that happens to be in the real estate business.
Wow.
For a long time, though, we didn't take newbies. Those that just had never sold anything, they needed to go hang their license at another firm where they could get the training. We focused on providing the tool set for those who were experienced producers. And that even though we needed more heads, we had more productive heads. So that accelerated our rapid growth and really helped us through that process. So it's really magical when you get in a crisis. Pretty much all medical advances in the history of the world have been made during times of crisis, during war. They're not made in peacetime. And they're not made rapidly in peacetime, but in time of war, they're made very rapidly. And so I equate our situation that we had to that.
Yeah. And so you had the stressful situation, you put this other model in place, and it's just one other follow-up question. So at that flat fee, it's obvious how that's better to pay $650 instead of $20,000. But so then if it's a $2 million house, is it still a flat fee?
Yeah. Whether it's $100,000 house or $100 million house, the fee is the same.
So I could see where then that's appealing for attracting agents. And then from the Benchmark side now, that becomes a volume game that you're bringing in less per transaction. You need more agents, more transactions.
We moved from the small town retailer to the Walmart concept. That's essentially what we did. You've got to have a pretty serious back office. And this is an important point that we're headed toward here. And I'll go ahead and point it out for you, is that when you're in an industry, the worst thing you can do is develop tunnel vision. The words, because we've always done it that way, are the death knell of a business. You have to actually look outside your industry and apply practices. And that's really what I did. We collectively, and of course, many good people along the way have helped me refine this process. I don't want to thump my chest and say, hey, look at me. I'm just saying I was the brainchild for it. But taking best practices from other industries and introducing them into your industry is the way you kill your competition.
Yeah. And as you were starting down that path, did it seem to be successful in working right away, or were there moments of doubt? Or you do something new and you're looking back, were there moments where you wondered, gosh, am I making a mistake?
Yeah. Anytime you do something new, there are moments of, what have I done? What have I done? Got 4 kids at home. And so I distinctly remember, I think so we had done collectively in 2005, probably $30 million of the real estate sales. In total 2008, we did 10 million. And I think I did 6 of that myself. This year, we will do 5 billion, just to give you a comparison number there.
Yeah.
And I distinctly remember, so we need to have lots of heads that pay fees. We need to get people signed up fast. Okay. I distinctly remember at the end of 2009 or beginning of 2009, that this is going to have to turn. It's going to have more production, or I'm going to have to go get a JOB. It's simple.
Yeah.
And spend a lot of time on my knees talking about that with the Lord. And what I will call a maven, and I talk about this in the book also, walked in the door with her license in her hand from a local, regional, or national affiliated franchisee and said, I'm sick of that SOB. Would you take my license? And I didn't know at the time that she was a maven. I just thought she was an agent that wanted to join us. And I thought, okay, this is great. I'll join us. Within 6 months, 65 other agents had followed her out of that office. And so that's the opportunity that would not be there if I had not remained steadfast in continuing to drive forward with the new model that we had established.
Yeah.
But discouragement is an evil twin that rises in the dark of the night.
Yeah. Another great way to name that. Our guest again today, Phillip Cantrell. The book is Failing My Way to Success. You mentioned the 10 businesses, and I was going to ask, you mentioned one of them was commercial printing. Was it a wide range of different businesses?
Two industries, commercial printing and real estate.
Okay. So various companies in each.
Yeah. Real estate and affiliated industries such as title and mortgage.
Okay.
In fact, I have a big loss in title, big win in title, and then nothing but a big loss in mortgage.
Yeah.
I'll never do that one again for sure.
Yeah.
That one's got a lot of zeros behind it.
Yeah. So 4 and 2. It's a 17 game schedule in the NFL now, but and there still are ties.
Yeah.
But that record scales to being roughly 8-1 or 7-3. That doesn't, that would rarely get you into the playoffs.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
in business and in life, you feel like you're in the playoffs, and it's technically a fully 500 record, but does that feel like a winning record?
In retrospect, I got a bag of cash, so who cares? So,
You can retire and
yeah.
get out of the NFL with your health. To
So that's
extend
an
that
important point
analogy.
is that the reason that I'm still here, the reason I'm sharing this, the reason I wrote the book was to help those who follow behind us. And I think that's the obligation of every leader my age who has done what I have done. And the easy temptation is to take the money and just go to the farm or go to the beach house or whatever. And I get that. I pay property taxes in 3 states, and that does not matter to me. What matters to me is the fact that I want to reach back and help those that come behind, not step on the same pitfalls and landmines that I stepped on.
Go ahead.
Yeah. When I wrote this book, I said, I don't really care about the money. If it helps one person, I'm calling it a win.
Yeah.
And I'm finding tremendous reception from millennials. The Gen X, they're still young and dumb, just like I was. They haven't figured it out yet. But the
Gen X,
millennials,
I'm Gen X.
yeah, a lot of them are. Sorry, not perfect company exclude.
I'm not. Us Gen Xers are in the middle age now, but the millennials,
The
Gen Z,
millennials are hitting their 40s and they're looking around and saying, oh crap, nobody's here to teach me and guide me through this. And I've got to repeat the same mistakes. And I am getting solicitation after solicitation. Okay, would you coach me? Would you mentor me? And I had no intention of doing that when I first started this. I just wanted to share my knowledge.
And it helps people to share the losses and the ties.
Yeah.
And I'm always grateful. We've had more than 300 people willing to come on this podcast in 5 years.
You're doing the same thing. This is
to
exactly what you're doing. So you're a Gen Xer that's kicking butt, man.
And I'm reaching a stage here where, I would like to help the next generations that are coming through in my profession. And you're right, that's fulfilling. So I try to be open about my losses, but tell us about a tie. Like, I'm curious, which of these businesses you look back, why do you consider that one to be a tie?
Probably the title business. So if you know what title insurance is, all mortgage companies require that you have title insurance to ensure the clear title on your property. And it's insurance, just like property and casualty insurance, car insurance, whatever. It insures against a loss, so that if the Cherokee Indians come back and say, this is our burial ground, we want your house, they'll defend you. You may not get to keep the house, but at least you'll be indemnified, or they'll be indemnified against the loss. So it's a interesting business and typically requires attorneys to be involved. Attorneys should be involved in real estate closing anyway, in my opinion. I never do a real estate closing with a notary. I love notaries, but you need an attorney sitting at the table. And
I had a mistake to not have an attorney.
There's what happens if you're looking at the deed and the buyer has a question about the deed that they're getting ready to sign acceptance of, and there's a dead easement on there or an access agreement that they don't understand. Notaries are good, but they're not legally trained to explain such matters. And if something arises at the closing table, such as unfinished repairs during the transaction that you need to escrow money for, a notary really is not suitable to do that sort of performance. That's legal work, right? So you need an attorney's legal degree to do that, legal license to do that. So the first foray into that is I hired an attorney straight out of school. She had been a processor, and she'd gone back to school and gotten her degree, and I and passed the bar, and I set the title company up as a 50-50 partnership. Never set up 50-50 partnerships. Sorry.
Never mistake.
Yeah, I can.
5149.
That's something. Somebody has to be in charge and has to be in control. And I'm sure in her stage of life, she was doing the best she could, but it just wasn't working. So we dissolved that. And then went into a year or so later, did it again in a joint venture arrangement, which is a very clear legal document that lays out responsibilities and can be terminated with a stroke of a pen. It's not a marriage, right? It's an engagement with a pen, really written in pencil, actually. And that's been one of the best things I've ever done, because it's a lucrative business anyway. All insurance is lucrative. I don't care what insurance guys try to tell you. It's very lucrative business. And so I would say you've got a really bad, big negative, and you got a really big positive that equates to a tie.
Okay. Yeah. And you move on to the next game.
That's it.
A football team.
That's
NFL team
you learn what you learn, because as I said when we started this, failure is going to happen. Problems are going to come up. It's what you learn from them and how you build your business going forward that makes the difference. Key to success.
Yeah. And you decided your dad talking about if you never make mistakes, you're not really trying to do anything. And that's a common theme on the show here. But I'm curious, since you set up this analogy of a win-loss record.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts in business of what you hear in sports of, oh, that team's playing not to lose instead of playing to win. Whether it could be in hockey or football, it's just been any sport. They're on their heels, they're playing defensive, they're more concerned about not making a mistake instead of going for a big play. What are your thoughts on that? If you're watching your favorite team, if you have one, versus in business, do you need to make sure you're playing to win?
I think it's a simple matter of embracing the fact that there is no status quo in business. A business is either growing or it will by default decline. And so that addresses your question directly there, that if you do play to not lose, then you are by default losing. And that's just the natural order of the universe. There's no way to get around that.
Yeah.
And that's why you see so many businesses, they initially flourish a little bit and then they plateau and they just stay there and stagnate. And what that business owner has, and I'm trying to think of the word for it, it's a job, not a business. So it's a job that provides them with certain niceties that they wouldn't have if they were a true W-2 employee of somebody else, but still it's not growing. It's not doing anything. And in business,
or they can't take time. They can't take time away from it.
So I was on a plane the other day and a guy, I was overhearing a conversation happening in the next row waiting to board the plane. And the fellow was bragging about he was part of a service industry and he had 27 reports and he had 150 employees and he couldn't take any time off. He had been down to where I was coming home from to fix a problem with one of his branches. And he made the comment that the business would collapse if he was not there.
I would say, oh.
I'm like, dude, you don't have a business. You have a lifestyle business. You don't have a business. That's the word I was looking for. It's a lifestyle business. And the lady that he was talking to was a traveling nurse. And she said immediately what was in my head, that's failure of leadership. She hit him right between the eyes with it. And man, he clammed up. He didn't say another word to her. And as she passed me, she said, I guess he didn't like what I said. I said, you said the truth. Never be afraid to speak the truth.
Did you have a copy of your book in your bag that you? That's a mistake, Philip. You always have to have a copy of your book with you. You never know. Maybe he wouldn't have been receptive to it, but you never know who you're going to run.
People who are actually bragging about stuff like that probably do not read to begin with.
They feel important, and that's worth a little bit. But like you said, that's not scalable.
No, it's not scalable, and it's a failure of leadership. The last thing I want to do is to have any organization that I'm functioning in be solely dependent on me.
Yeah.
That is abject failure to me. Everyone in the entire organization should be replaceable within 2 days, including the CEO, including the president. If not, then you've got a very poor structure. You got an org chart issue for sure.
For sure. A leadership issue. Yeah. I agree. So I wanted to talk about, since the word scalability came up, one thing you highlight in the book is the difference between scaling a business and scrambling to grow. What's the difference, and what's the warning sign that you're just scrambling?
Planning is the way you avoid that. That's the difference. The warning sign of scrambling is when you're constantly in a fireman role, putting out fires.
Yeah.
That means that you have not studied your processes. And you ever taken that left brain, right brain test? The right brain is creative side. The left brain is the analytical side. They made me take it twice because I am 98% left brain. They didn't believe it. An artist is usually 70-30.
And to be a business person, entrepreneur, that's rare.
It's very rare. My wife often has to remind me, honey, not everybody's like you, and then probably mutters under her breath, thank God. But I am one of those that I document when I refine a process, when I develop a process. When we develop a process, we document it. We put everything in writing. And when we put things in writing, then you have something to refer back to. And you're constantly improving upon that and polishing on that, and sanding on it, and sanding on it, and polishing it, and sanding it. And doing that over a long period of time, then you got things in binders. You can't see them, but there's a wall of binders here that says these are our operational plans. And that comes from my little bit of time in the military, is that there is a war plan for every scenario that exists in a Pentagon. Every possible world scenario that could exist, there is a documented war plan. And I would advocate that every business needs to have the same thing. And failing to do that leads to the chaos, because what are you doing? You're reinventing the wheel every day. Every day you get up and what am I going to do today? And I tell agents, you break that down to the simplest form, even if it's a real estate agent and they struggle getting their business up. And every day for them is a new day. They wake up, okay, what am I going to do today? Go sell a house to somebody. That's fine, except that every day you're recovering the same ground that you paid for with blood yesterday. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. I tell them in classes that I teach sometimes, I said, look, you want me to double your income next year? And everybody says, hey, I said, do this, write this down right now. At the end of every day, sit down and write down the 5 most important things for you to accomplish tomorrow. Do that every day. And in a year, your income will be double what it is today.
The most important, not the most interesting, the most fun,
most critically important, because sometimes they're the hardest ones, right? They're the hardest ones. You hit the ground running the next morning, your subconscious internalizes that while you're sleeping at night. So you know exactly what you need to do. The brain is a magnificent organ because it will plan your path if you will give it sufficient information ahead of time. It's sufficient for you to plan your path. And you'll hit the ground running next morning. You'll instantly know what path you need to take to accomplish those tasks. It's really amazing. That's how I built my business. If you want to know one thing that you want to take away, one thing, there it is right there.
Okay. So there's the one key tip. We invite the listener to do that. I'll sit and do that tonight. That's the habit instead of the random to-do list. I like that thought on prioritization. And I'll just also comment, I wouldn't put numbers to it. I'm an engineer. I am pretty right-brained. I wouldn't say I'm probably not 98% right-brained.
Left brain. Left brain is the analytical side.
Oh, left brain is the analytical side. Okay. Whoops. My mistake. Another mistake. My mistake. I'm going to fail forward. So wait, so you were 70% right brain?
No, I'm 98% left brain.
It's another mistake. So I totally had that backward.
Yeah.
So it has been a long time. So I went through that. So,
most engineers are 70, 80% left brain.
Okay. And that might well be true, but I am a believer in process, and there are settings where people balk at the idea of process. So like in healthcare, people might say, that nurse practitioner might have said, every patient is unique. I'm like, okay, in some way, yes, but that doesn't mean the work you're doing today is completely different than the work you did yesterday. And I imagine a real estate agent might say every deal is unique. Every home is unique. Every seller or buyer is unique. But my goodness, it's not just paperwork. There's there should be process around how does one set up a viewing, a showing of a home.
There are basic foundational elements of every task. If it weren't, we would have already been replaced completely by AI. But it's that human brain that can see and think and say, okay, I did it this way last time, got me to this point. I need to go to this point. How do I get there? That's the human brain that tells us how to do that and adjust for each individual circumstance. You're exactly right.
Yeah. And process doesn't eliminate the need for creativity or adaptation.
None.
I'm in the camp of the cliche that process sets you free to be more creative.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It does, because you don't have to worry about it. Okay, let's simplify this and equate it to getting dressed in the morning. If you know you're going to put on your underwear, you know you're going to put on an undershirt, you know you're going to put on a pair of pants, you got a belt, you got a pair of shoes. The creativity comes in the jacket you wear or the shirt that you select. And that's something that changes on a daily basis. But those basics of making sure you put on deodorant, making sure you shave, all those are the basic processes that you engage in. Those are the ones that I would advocate could be documented, and you repeat them exactly the same way every time. I'm one of those guys that when I get dressed in the morning, it's probably getting way too personal, but I'm going to do it anyway. My process in the bathroom is exactly the same steps every day. I shave, I put hair stuff on, I do the lotion, the same sequence of events. Those are the processes when you recognize those patterns, and you have to be alert to patterns, and you recognize the patterns, you document those patterns, and then you've taken that part off your brain. Your brain doesn't spend time trying to figure out how to do the same thing every day. And then the creativity comes in. Einstein did this. He practiced. He had 7 exact suits that were exactly the same. He had a white shirt, a black tie, and a gray suit. He had 7 of them that way. And the reason somebody asked him one time, why do you do that? He said, because I don't want to waste time thinking about what I'm wearing that day.
Yeah. Steve Jobs and others
Same thing.
and in that same mode. I think for a long time, Jeff Bezos wore a shirt like yours, a light blue button up and khaki pants.
That's it.
I think he's branched out. He's earned that.
I got a closet full of shirts, but they're either blue or white.
Yeah.
Take a pick.
Yeah. But I think one could have, a lot of people have, let's say, a checklist for packing their suitcase. And having that checklist doesn't mean you always pack the exact same clothes each time.
Sure.
Facets can be helpful to make sure you don't forget to pack
socks. You don't miss something. That's right. That's it. That's the key to it. And that's, so why do you do things exactly the same way? And I have a saying that we're all going to do things exactly the same way every day, every time. Why? Because it leads to repeatable outcomes.
Yes. Better outcomes.
And as you improve those processes, you achieve better outcomes that are then in turn repeatable. And it's a flywheel effect, just like Jim Collins talks about it. It's a flywheel effect. It takes a while to get it moving. You can't stop during that process, or you'll never have success in getting keeping the flywheel moving. But once you have it moving, you can spin it with one hand.
Yeah. Yeah. It's easy once you get it.
Yeah.
Momentum. Yes.
That's it.
Powerful thing. Phillip, I want to ask one other question here while we have time. Earlier, you were talking about doing things, beating the competition, but you also say, and I think this is interesting, that your only real competitor is the man in the mirror. Tell us about that, and how has that mindset shaped the way that you lead or scale a business?
Okay, so I had a damaging childhood. And
how we're getting personal again.
Yeah, it's going to get personal. It's in the book. It's in the book. Right?
Go ahead.
So, and it's a raw book. I'm just telling you. It made my son cry when he read it. But the thing is that I had an older brother who was off the charts intelligent, seriously genius level. I don't know what his IQ is, but I'm sure it was close to 200. He's just that kind of guy. He could read a book one time and regurgitate the whole thing. He is a PhD in geology. He's Dr. Cantrell. So I had that growing up to compete with. He's 2.5 years older than me. And I followed him through school, and through school, there was always this comparison of, why can't you be like your brother? And you find this as a trait in many successful people, that that are driven to prove themselves. And it is hard to get. It's like trying to catch an eel, a slippery eel, because you never achieve approval that you desire. My mother and I were like this.
And for the listener, okay.
It's like bumping my fist together. We were always tussling with each other. We did reconcile on her deathbed, and I actually share that in the book. But the thing is that I realized probably in my 30s, that is a false reward to try to achieve success in the eyes of other people. And the only way you can ever have true internal success in your heart is to know that you have done what you needed to do, and you've satisfied your own desire for it. And that's what I mean by competing with a man in the mirror. There is nobody on the face of this planet has ever been harder on me than I have been. At first, it was because I was trying to appeal to others. Now it's because I realized this is what we're supposed to do and how it's supposed to be done. And every day I sit down, when I do my 5 things at the end of the day, and I still do them, even though I'm in a consulting role, in EVP of Strategy for United Real Estate role is really, I consult with the CEO because he can't talk. When you're at that level, you can't talk to people within the organization.
That's what they say. It's lonely at the top.
That's it. That's exactly it. I have been at the top, so we have that camaraderie and that companionship, and that's what that title means.
Yeah.
The bottom line is that at the end of the day, I always try to write down, what did I learn today? In fact, I talk about this in the book, and I'm sorry I keep saying that, but I do. Right. I have 2 little binders that I carry with me in my backpack all the time. One is a black and one is gray. and they just happen to be those colors, no significance to it. But the gray one is for meetings, where I make notes in meetings, although they have wonderful AI help for that sort of thing now. I'm still old school, want to write stuff down. The other is for my thoughts. And I sit down at the end of the day and say, okay, what big events did I encounter today? And what have I learned from those big events? And some call that journaling. I don't put it in the story form. I'm just like, here's a sentence, here's a sentence, here's a sentence. It's not a paragraph. They may not be related to each other, but I'm jotting those down. And I've learned early on that I'm a tactile learner. So I can write something out, throw the paper away, but the act of writing it out embeds it in my subconscious, in my psyche. And that's helps me get better. That helps me get better. It helps me accumulate those events. And if you don't remember, what's the old saying? If you don't know history or haven't learned from history, you're destined to repeat history.
Yeah.
And that's the summary of what we're talking about here.
Right. Yeah. Doomed to repeat your mistakes.
That's right. That's it.
Your history. And that's another great habit and a great tip. And it makes me think of a couple of guests who have been on the podcast who worked for Toyota. And there's a strong habit there of when something went wrong, when there was a mistake, instead of leaders getting upset.
Yeah.
The plant manager, plant president, executives would ask, what did we learn today? And they weren't being smart alecky about it.
100%.
That was serious. What did we learn? How are we going to improve and not repeat the mistake?
That forensic analysis is critical in every business, to do a postmortem to figure out what happened. And usually you'll find out it was something fairly simple. And something fairly simple way back at the beginning that caused the whole thing, the process to derail down here.
Yeah.
And then you document that, and then you don't have to trace it again.
And the good news is that things that are simple like that are usually simple to fix, or at least we have a chance.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're flailing each other and blaming each other, you never get to that point. So forget about that.
Yeah. See, as I said at the beginning, Philip, you were definitely in the right place here on this podcast. I really appreciate you sharing your stories and reflections, giving us a glimpse into the deeper dive in the book. So again, Phillip Cantrell, the book is Failing My Way to Success, Lessons from 42 Years of Winning and Losing in Business, and I guess, and Ties. That was too long for
It's too much. Yeah, exactly right.
In the subtitle. But Philip, a winning record here today. It was definitely a win to have you here. So I appreciate it. And thank you so much.
I'm glad to do it. And I hope we help some people.
I'm sure you did. Thanks again.
Yes, sir.